All right, guys. So today we'll be going over prompt engineering for data engineers. Okay. So the whole point of today's video will be focused on how to write prompts for specifically like data pipelines. Okay. I'll be showing an example of a good prompt in a moment, but let's go over the basics. So how LLMs actually process your prompts. Okay. So before writing any prompts, you don't need to be like too like in the weeds of like how they work on like a deep technical level. You see like a working mental model of like what's really happening under the hood. It's really all about prediction. Every LLM is fundamentally like an autocomplete engine. So if you've ever worked with like neural networks, which is this is what this graphic's supposed to be, at least like a in space type of neural network, that's all these large language models are. They're just neural networks. So they really is like when you use like your iMessage or like when you text and they have like the autocomplete, just think of it as like the world's best autocomplete tool in the world. So when you ask it, let's say like what's the best coding language to use for my new job, it's going to, based off its training data, predict the next words that come next. It's really just an autocomplete tool. Okay. From there on, attention also isn't uniform. So these models, they actually pay the most. It doesn't read your prompts linearly, like from like beginning to end, like humans. Okay. It assigns a level of weights, right? If you ever worked with machine learning models, they weight the actual your input text, your tokens behind your prompt, and it gives it the more weight for the beginning, the end, and it gets less weight for the middle. Okay, so if you bury, like for example, critical extraction rules in the middle of a wall of text, say especially push your context window to 200,000, it may forget. All right. And also, in addition to that, repetition signals with priority. Like, just imagine the best rule of thumb I can give is just imagine you're like giving instructions to a brand new intern, and we'll talk about this analogy later too. Is just pretend you're talking like you're training a new intern. Like if you repeat like, hey, do not do this multiple times throughout the prompt, it's gonna not do X, Y, and Z. It's gonna make sure to not do it, right? So things like that, right? So first thing to consider is system prompts versus user messages. So when you're working with the API for whether it's OpenAI, Gemini, Anthropic, whatever it may be, there are two key prompts that you have to consider writing. Is the system prompt. So system prompt is your configuration for this pipeline or for this specific prompt. So it defines the model's roles, the extraction rules, the output format. Like stays consistent across all documents, across all API calls, no matter what you're doing. So if you ever worked with like with a Gemini or like a GPT and you built like a custom GPT or like what's it called, like a custom GPT or a custom project on what's it called on Anthropic, cannot talk right now, you hit new gem and they have all like this instructions field, that is your system prompt. Okay, like that's the baseline instructions that will follow throughout every conversation, every message, and it's like again the baseline instructions for doing this specific task. Okay, so that's the system prompt. The user message, it's really the input that you're putting into the pipeline. So let's say you have this prompt. Let's say like I want you to pull out the confidentiality clause for this contract. You're a legal assistant that pulls out confidentiality clauses for every contract that you're given. That would be the system prompt. The user input would be the actual contract text, right? So think of like the row that's being passed into the actual function. That's like the best example to give. Like the system prompt defines the function that you created, say in Python, and the actual user message is the input that you're putting into the function. Okay, like if you want to make it a multi-conversation thing, like let's say you have like this past example from the last video, how to cook a steak, it returns this, then I ask a follow-up question like how do I make it rare, things like that. But the most important part is why this split of system prompt to user prompt matters is because it's prompt caching. Okay, we can cache the system prompt so that we could pay less tokens, especially if we're calling this specific sequence 200,000 times or 100,000 times or even 50,000 times, right? We can cache the system prompt since that same system prompt is going to happen every single run, right? The only thing that'll be different is the input data. That means we can cache it and save 90% off of input tokens as well, okay? Which ends up saving a lot of money because if you compare without caching to with caching, it makes your life a lot easier because it is a substantial difference in price, especially if you have a very intricate prompt and it's quite long. That obviously makes a huge difference, right? So here's my overall process for writing prompts. I'm going to show you guys an example right after this. Is really there's a couple of things. Number one is the intern test. The issue with I think most people have when writing prompts is that they think that there's some magical structure, there's some magical format that just makes a prompt good and it's just going to get you the best results in the world. That is not it. The best way to write prompts. It's as if you are training someone that's a brand new intern to follow this task and to follow it correctly without asking follow-up questions. If an intern that's new to your company can do it based off that prompt or the instructions you wrote, then it can do it just fine with as an AI. Otherwise, it will mess up. So a great example of this is, let's load up Gemini and let's say there's this prompt right here. How can you write me a good blog post on how to cook a medium rare steak? Okay, oops, cannot type. So this is my input prompt. What is bad about this, right? Because it sounds very straightforward. Write me a blog post on how to cook a medium rare steak, right? But the definition of good, right? That's very, how do I say this? Very arbitrary. Because good could be different. A good blog post looks different to ask 20 different people what a good blog post looks like. You can get 20 different answers. So you have to write what looks good to you. Because if, say, told a new intern at the company, can you write me a good blog post on how to cook a medium rare steak? And you're mad at the results. Well, that's because you only you didn't really define what this intern should do in the real world. Just like how I didn't really define what this AI should do when writing this, right? And you want to do that especially if you want specific results, you need to give specific instructions. Just like with anything in life, regardless of AI or teaching someone or hiring a new employee, things like that, right? Or like how to cook a medium rare steak. Maybe I know a lot of people I don't really cook very well, so maybe this isn't the best example. But a lot of people like to cook it in the oven first and then sear it after, right? Or the reverse. Some people like to sear it first and then they cook in the oven. I don't know what is your process of how to cook a medium rare steak look like to you. Like, what is that definition, right? So it's being specific and giving actually clear-cut instructions. And as a result, you'll get clear-cut outputs. Just again, the intern test. If you gave a brand new intern this prompt, could it follow the task and complete the task audit and get the outputs that you want based off the prompt you submitted? That is really what you have to make sure of. That is actually the highest priority thing to consider when writing prompts, okay? Next thing, the top. So as we said earlier, the top and bottom get the most weight. So we want to define like the key things of what this AI should be as the role. So we're really just defining the role of this AI. So we're defining who the model is, and we want to approach, because again, these models are trained on the general internet. We wanted to give it a role on who it should be. So like you're a legal assistant, you're a document extraction system. You never fabricate values. That way, when it's extracting values from contract details that we're giving it, let's say that's just one example, right? We're giving it a contract, pull a confidentiality clause. It's not going to hallucinate. There's a less probability to hallucinate or make things up, etc. Right? So that's defining the role, the rules it should follow. The middle is reference context. Okay, so this is where you want to define like examples. There's like a lot of large chunks of details, right? Like summaries, examples, definitions, right? Must follow rules, right? Because that's stuff that you want, it has to follow, like such as output format and critical rules. You want those at the beginning and the end. That way you don't get downstream errors down the line. Because if you mess up the output schema, right? And let's say you wanted to return a JSON format and it messes up the JSON format, then the rest of the pipeline fails. Like those are critical rules that must be followed, okay? So here's an example of a prompt I actually wrote. So this is gonna follow, and let's go through this by following like this process, right? So how I start off is the top part, which is, again, we're just defining the role. You are a contract clause extraction system. So very self-explanatory. You're extracting clauses from a contract, right? You extract termination and technology upgrade clauses from contracts and return them as a structured JSON. You only extract what is explicitly in the document. You never infer or fabricate. Now I define the roles. So here's some clause definitions to extract, right? The termination clause, technology upgrade clause, where I give a definition for each. So any clause describing how either party can end the agreement includes termination for cause, for convenience, insolvency, expiration, etc. Technology clauses, any clause obligating a party to upgrade, update, or modernize or replace technology, software, hardware, system, things like that, right? So here's an example of a termination clause, and that makes it easier for the AI, or say an intern in the real world, to understand what a termination clause may look like, right? Similarly enough with the technology upgrade clause, right? And maybe if you want to include more examples, maybe you want to include examples of what maybe clauses that may sound like a technology upgrade clause or a termination clause, but aren't, right? Or like no matching clauses, right? So we want to just give it as much detail as possible so that it can do the job as best as possible. Again, just like we're training an intern, right? And at the end, I put here's the output structure that I want. So it's a JSON format, okay? Where it's clauses with these fields, the clause type and the text, and some rules that it must follow. So return only a valid JSON only, no markdown, no explanation, no preamble. Only extract and technology and termination clauses, ignore everything else. Text must be copied exactly from the source because again, we want it verbatim from the actual input or the input contract that we're going to give it. And if no matching clauses exist, just return an empty JSON. So for example, let's say with this example right here, right? Let's say I don't want it just to do an extraction, but I wanted to also summarize both of what their clauses talk about and talk about recommendations on what we should do with this customer as well. Like to do the extraction, to do the summarization, plus the recommendation, what we should do for the specific customer, and the extraction can be combined into one. But the recommendation, that's a whole separate set of instructions that you would give a human being anyways. Like if you're to write in a Google Doc, a set of instructions for how to do all those tasks together, you would split that up, right? And you would do the same concept. The same concept applies for prompts, right? You don't want to combine everything when it's not necessary. And obviously splitting it up may cost more because there's more API requests, more tokens that is being processed. But again, that's how you get better results. Always trade-offs with anything. Like maybe you want to combine things and you're okay with the deterioration of the results, but it saves you, it gives you simplicity, saves you costs, things like that. Or if results are a priority, then maybe you split things up and you get better results, but obviously that requires more API calls, more steps, more money as well, okay? So a good example is an email support pipeline, right? So one prompt classifies the intent of the support email, like let's say it's at a store, let's say it's like Amazon or Target, right? Like they want a refund or they don't know where their shipping is. Like, so they classify what is the intent of their support ticket, right? Then we extract the entities using a strict schema, like what is the problem? Are they angry? Yes or no? Things like that. And we can generate summaries using outputs from the prompt too. So from the data that we extracted from their email, we can then generate a summary based off that. We can split that up. We can split that all up into 3 different prompts, right? And each step becomes like a map with like a DAG, right? A directed DAG, like a DAG with clear inputs, clear outputs, and each step dependent on the previous step, right? Splitting it up means more API calls, but also it gives you better accuracy and it also lets you track things a lot easier as well. Okay. Guys, what to take from all this? One, your prompt is really your transformation logic. Like with data engineering, with SQL, pandas, you're used to one input gets you the same output. You want to treat it like, so number one is your prompt is your transformation logic. So treat it with the same rigor as like SQL or Python. You want to like version control. Like I have like actual versioning for all my prompts. And that's a very common thing that people do, right? You want to test things, review the outputs, okay? And make tweaks off of it. Because again, just like instructions you give it to an employee, like it's always gonna be ever changing, right? 2, structure for how models read. Remember the sandwich method. Role and setup at the top, reference context in the middle, critical rules and output format at the bottom. That's like, it's a very simple rule of thumb. There's no right or wrong answer how to write prompts realistically, but that's just how I always write it, okay?